I am on a quest to beat every game for the Nintendo Gamecube. Every single one. However, each game is chosen at random by this horrendous wheel, so we are never certain what's coming next. My name is Rami, and this is my quest to beat the entire GameCube library. Game number 7 is our first Japan exclusive, Charinko Hero. Released in 2003, it was both developed and produced by Band Presto. We've got a weird one here. This is a Mario Kart style racing game, but it features characters from the Ultraman series and Kamen Rider. Not only that, but rather than driving karts or even motorbikes, which Kamen Rider is known for, we're on big wheels, baby. We're greeted by a pretty cool pre-rendered cutscene introducing the characters and trying to make racing on tricycles look like a death sport. It went on for several minutes and it feels like half the budget went towards it. Upon entering the main menu, we are offered the Grand Prix, Time Trial, Multiplayer Battle, and Options menu. Similar to a Mario Kart game, our win condition is to beat the Grand Prix races on offer, unlock the Special Cup, and beat that too. There are 14 races to choose from, and to my knowledge there are no extra ones to unlock. If you are familiar with Kamen Rider or Ultraman, perhaps you know their names and powers, but since we didn't know anything, I chose to pick based on stats. From top to bottom, we have acceleration, speed, handling, weight, and the jump stat. Kamen Rider Agito had the most balanced stats, so I settled on him. We had 2 cups to choose from. I just went for the top one, which has stages based on Ultraman. And here it is, the hypest big wheel racing money can buy.
3, 2, 1, go!
Don't know how you get the boost at the start. So we were already off to a bad start. Unlike many racing games, you don't get the boost by holding accelerate from a certain point in the countdown, but more on that later. The controls for this one are very basic. We can accelerate, brake, jump, and boost. The bar at the bottom right is engine heat. Apparently tricycles have engines now. You are able to boost with Y whenever you want, no item required. This is however balanced by heating your engine, and if you overheat, you need to button mash A to cool back down. Oddly enough, you can cool your engine faster by letting go of the accelerator, but the speed you lose by doing that is more than you gain by boosting, so I'm not really sure what the intended use is for that. In my first attempt, I didn't even make 4th as a comm overtook me at the last second. I felt like the other characters were just way quicker than Agito, so I pivoted to the Kaiju Gamora. They are all speed and weight to the detriment of their other stats. Once again, the others left me in their dust, but I was hoping our massive top speed would help me close the gap. This first stage has all the straight sections, which are perfect for Gamora. Every character in this game handles like a shopping trolley with greased up wheels, but with a 1 in handling, Gamora is even worse. If you brake into a corner, you can initiate a drift of sorts. Now in other car races, you typically need to wiggle the control stick when gliding to generate sparks and get a boost, but here I just couldn't figure out how the comms were doing it. Whenever I used this maneuver, it just killed all momentum, and often I'd find myself facing the wrong direction too. Even when I felt like it was doing well, the comms would all just come out of nowhere, bunched up in a big blob, and overtake me. Just like in Mario Kart, there are item boxes scattered throughout the stages. The items I encountered were a bottle of water to cool down your engine, a bottle of heat, I guess, that overheats the person in front of you, thumbtacks that you dump on the ground behind you, a shield that gives you a brief invulnerability period, a tire which serves as the green shell, you can fire it forwards or backwards and it bounces around. There's a caltrop that works the same as the tacks, but they can also be held behind you as a shield. And lastly, all heat, which is essentially the lightning bolt for this game. It overheats all opponents at the same time. The comms really like bullying the player. They often chain you with items or just drive straight into you. This time around I came in last place and it was starting to feel a bit personal. With no instructions, I was left trying to figure out the starting boost and drift systems, and the comms have absolutely no chill. I swapped Racer again, and this time went with Ultraman Gaia, the only reason being he looked cool. I also decided to mix it up and give the Kamen Rider Stage Cup a go instead. Surely I'll have more success with this one. This time I almost did the Super Boost Star. I pressed A on the word go, but I think I was just a little bit late and I got half the effect. I've explained most of the mechanics at this point. As you can see, it has similarities to other kart races and seems to be heavily inspired by Mario Kart. One unique thing it did have though, besides awful controls, are character unique powers. This game actually predates Double Dash, which would also have a similar system. Each stage is littered with blue medals which you can collect to stock up on ability charges, and you can spend these whenever you want. They are extremely unbalanced though. The ones I encountered included Agito, who effectively has a superstar. It's a speed boost and invulnerability. There's a guy who gets off his big wheel and just straight up runs. Gamora just seems to instantly reach top speed, which might be the worst one of all. And truly the most overpowered and loathsome one of all. I don't know whose it is, but somebody has their own blue shell, and they can just drop a temple on the head of whoever is in first place. Blue shells are bad enough, but this just comes out of nowhere, and only one character being able to use it is crazy. In spite of all these shenanigans, I still almost made it to the end in first place, but a couple of comms came out of nowhere, I got some items spammed on me, and fell back to third place for the finish. Man oh man, this game is tough, dude. At this point, I thought it would be more or less impossible for me to win. I would need to come in first place for the next couple of races to even have a chance. But I decided to play this one out just to learn the stages and practice my driving some more. I really cannot overemphasize just how badly these big wheels handle. I assume it's by design, but turning feels extremely unresponsive, and with still no clue how to pull off the corner boosts, I ended up 4th in the standings and decided it was time to really go for it. We returned to character select, and at this point my mod Fell Shadow gave me some really valuable insight. Firstly, Ultraman Cosmos has a unique ability similar to a red shell. This sounded perfect for trying to stay in the top 3 positions, so we locked him in. Secondly, he explained that the drift boost is performed in a very odd way. You need to hold accelerate and brake when you slide into a corner, then when the sparks appear under your cart, you let go of both of them and then hit accelerate again. Okay. Near the end of lap 2, I still hadn't pulled it off successfully, instead my cart would just skid out. In spite of this, through some solid driving and item luck, I was heading towards the finish in first place for the first time ever. Sadly, all it takes is one item or ability to knock you all the way back down to 5th. Even with the setback, I managed to sneak my way back into third place. It was neck and neck for third at the end, but I had a ton of boost saved up and I locked it in. Similar to the Grand Prix in other games, we receive points based on placement and will need to finish the 4th race with the highest amount to win that cup. I felt confident with my improving skills and decided to push ahead despite being down in points. This time we're navigating a volcano, and this is where the mysterious jump stack comes into play. This stage is littered with holes and gaps that you need to jump over. My jump stat was a measly 2 out of 5, so I would need to jump right at the last second to make it. It took a number of attempts to get used to, but by the second lap I was sailing over most gaps. As I entered lap 3, I was in a worrisome 4th place, but I also had 3 charges of my red shell type ability, and I was ready to blast some fools. But the comms had other ideas, and they were item spamming me hard. I managed to avoid falling in the pits at least. While this isn't the prettiest game in the world, I enjoy the visuals of this one. Every stage is novel and littered with cool features. This one had an erupting volcano in the background, and these big smashy boys all over the place. By the time I entered this cool tunnel near the end of lap 3, things did not look promising. But never say never. Several comms failed the jump, and I blasted the rest with my ability. Despite me landing on some well-placed tacks, I was in second with plenty of boost and a water on deck. First place even fell in a hole, which gave me a chance, and I wasn't shy about spending everything I had. Yes! 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 Okay. Oh my god. I love these really bad games. It's like Top Angler. I get so invested. They're way more difficult than they should be, and I get really into it. Thanks to my very first win, I was now tied for first place on points, 2 more stages to go. At this point, I had mastered the starting boost, and I would often begin the race in first place. Sadly, my arch enemy, the Temple, would nearly always put a stop to that. This stage was super cool, a lot of twists and turns, and even this huge tunnel. Many stage hazards too. There were kaiju that would squash you, and even some shark-looking things that shoot fire and laser beams.
You know, I have one simple request, and that is to have sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads.
The windiness of this stage made it perfect for practicing drifting and trying to perfect the boost dash. I finally had my first success, and at long last I grasped how to perform these. By the way, if anyone reads Ultraman and can tell me what this giant bird thing is, I'm dying to know at this point. Heading into lap 2, I still hadn't quite mastered the boost, and the comms still loved pelting me with items, but I was finally starting to think I could beat this one. My red shell ability was simply a game changer, and I entered lap 3 in a commanding first place. Sadly, I got laser sharked midway, and that put me all the way back to 4th. Undeterred though, I snuck back into first right near the finish line. Somebody came out of nowhere unfortunately at the last second, and that knocked me down to a respectable second. With just one race remaining, I was up 1 point. If I could stop Gamora or Ultra 7 from taking first, I had this. Our final Ultraman stage is the Ultra Guard headquarters. I was really getting a feel for the drift boost by now. It's still really difficult to do, but satisfying when you pull it off. What? Dude, I might have just been totally taken out of this race. Someone hit me with a power there. And where even am I? Just in case getting taken out once wasn't devastating enough, it happened again! Turns out it wasn't a power-up, it's the ship that shoots you to make for a really risky shortcut. I thought it was all over now, but we had to play it out. I was boosting out of my mind, and when we saw another racer, I started to believe again. At this point, my plan was just to play it safe, stock up on blue medals as much as possible, and take advantage of being further back to avoid items. This paid off as I made it all the way back to second by lap 2. Even the comms find it difficult to drift boost, so if you can master it, you have a crazy advantage. As always, just when I took first and things were looking promising, I took a temple to the noggin. I took a really good drift boost though, and I managed to get back into first anyway. Heading into the final lap, I was battling for first. I spent my blue medal to red shell my opponent, and I took a dominant lead. About 10 seconds later though... Okay... Oh, dude, that stupid building! It's so unfair. Forget the blue shell. Like, that just spawns out of nowhere. I'm telling you, dude, the blue shell feels like a picnic compared to this stupid temple thing. Good game. Good game, chat. Very well designed. Not dumb at all! Not dumb at all! Great game. Holy, this game is taking years off of my life. I'm racing out of my mind here, and they just won't let me play the game. Since nobody else gets buildings dropped on their dome, we ended this race in second. I find these characters difficult to recognize from one another, so I was terrified that this would mean going all the way back to the beginning. Yes, dude. Yes, dude. Woo! Alright, chat. 1 cup down. Aye. I was sweating, but we had the cup in the bank. Now it was on to the Kamen Rider Cup, and I was 100% sticking with Cosmos. I did show this stage earlier in the video. This one is littered with jumps and little bumps that kill your speed. I think this map illustrates how much I'd improved in an hour though. I got a boost at the start and immediately went into a drift boost as well. My top speed is very low, so it takes about 1 lap to really start to cook. But compared to earlier where I was crashing into every wall, I think you can see a noticeable improvement here. The coolest thing about this stage is a series of baby jumps. If you drive straight into them, you go airborne and you lose all of your speed. The tactic is to hit the jump button before you reach them and clear the top. While not the most visually spectacular stage, this one was enjoyable as it was littered with tight turns and really rewarded good drifting skills. As seems to be my destiny at this point, I was in first place halfway through lap 3 and it didn't last. This time Ultraman Gaia hit me with his sword and that took me all the way back to 4th. I nailed the baby jumps this time, and I did start to close the gap. At the very end, I got hit by an overheat, but fortunately I made it to the jump pad, and that sent me through the finish line, locking in 3rd place. This did put me on the back foot, but I knew from the previous cup I could still bring it back. I think this next stage is the least enjoyable one in the whole game. The ground is covered in sand, and that makes handling even worse than it usually is. There is also a critical shortcut near the start that you want to jump into. My terrible jump stat made this a tall order, and we had to take the incredibly slow bottom path. You do eventually go through this cool mine tunnel, and it has a gimmick. On the minecart tracks, you move a lot faster, but the downside is your handling is even worse, and there's also these minecarts to dodge. Each lap ends with this OSHA-violating dig site. Not only are there diggers to avoid, there are landmines everywhere. Talk about occupational hazards. I failed the shortcut again on lap 2, and I was only staying in 3rd place thanks to some solid boosting. I legitimately don't know what happened next in the mines. It seems like the comms all got lost, and somehow I found myself taking first. When I entered lap 3, I was in 1st place, and as is tradition, I immediately had something dropped on my head. This time it was a little man, and he was trying to wrestle me for the controls. Incredibly though, not only did I score a water for engine cooling, I actually made the shortcut by a hair despite my terrible jump stat. At this point, I was so far ahead that even my 0 IQ mistake of exiting the shortcut the wrong way wasn't game over. I quickly turned around and I managed to slide back into 1st place. I snagged one last water, managed to avoid the landmines, and for only the third time in this playthrough, landed a first place finish. This resulted in a 3-way tie for first with 2 stages remaining. Stage 3 was a harbour complex and the smallest stage in the game. This is the windiest stage by far. Tons of tight turns and very little visual clarity on which direction you're meant to be going in. I think the game is extremely punishing your first time on a new stage. It's often not obvious which direction you should be heading in, and even the comms get lost. By lap 2, I was all the way back in last place. I did manage to snag a water, which I think is easily the strongest power-up in the game, and I started boosting like crazy. But even in last place, they won't leave me alone. I got hit by a wheel and then overheated by an all-heat. Talk about a tough crowd, man. By the time we entered lap 3, I was all the way back in 4th. Things did not look good. Thankfully, I found a life-saving shortcut through a bathhouse. It closed the gap and put me in range to use my blue medals. A great drift snuck us into 4th. 3rd place managed to crash somehow. A really clean jump got me into 2nd. And just when I thought I had this one in the bag, I tried to jump some tacks and I paid the price. What a costly mistake that was. I went all the way back down to 4th. Somehow I still had a chance though. If I could come in first on the final stage, I could still win this one. This stage is really cool. We have a Kamen Rider theme park. I ripped an awesome early boost and that led us into a haunted house. This place is chock full of tree roots that slow you down. You also have really tight turns to navigate. Several of the comms got themselves stuck here, and that got us into the top 3. Again, just a really cool stage. It's so vibrant and bursting with detail. Compared to the dull browns and greys of many of the other stages, this felt like driving through a Skittles factory. By the time I reached the spook house on lap 3, I was in 3rd place and hot on the heels of the 2 in front. I spent my blue medal to red shell 2nd place, and that made it a battle for 1st. By the time we left the haunted house, I was really close to 1st place, and I 100% thought I needed 1st place to win this one. Heading to the finish, I was in 2nd, and when I was writing the script here, I was yelling at the footage, "Use the medal, man!" I honestly have no idea why I didn't spend it, but with a 2nd place finish, we had no idea what that meant for the standings. Yes, dude! Alright chat, 2 cups down. Apparently tie means I win, and I'm completely fine with that. So yeah, no idea how I won that, but I was not about to question it. With the Ultraman and Kamen Cups in my possession, it was on to the special stage to beat this game. I of course locked in my boy Cosmos, and it was on to our final 4 stages. I had a decent start for this one, and I was really improving at handling these awful controls. Unfortunately, I was again punished for not knowing the level layout. I missed the way up in this parking lot and lost a ton of time. But if there's one thing we know by now, it's not over until it's over. This is another really visually compelling stage. It's driving over Tokyo, and you can take these crazy boost pads over rooftops. They really went all out on the Special Cup stages. Towards the end of this stage, you go through a train station, and it has cute little details, like a positive and negative escalator and ticket gates that will be randomly open or shut. A really funny thing we noticed on this stage is that even the comms find this game hard to control. They often crash into walls or each other, and that's the only reason we always have a chance to catch up, no matter how far behind we are. Heading into lap 3, we were in a close 2nd, and I had multiple blue medals ready. Sadly, the tracking on my ability is kind of awful, and I spent them all with no luck. Incredibly though, as we entered the train station, he hit some tacks, and I even got myself some much needed hydration. A really nice turn heading into the final section, and taking the speed boosting escalator gave me a huge lead, and I locked in my cleanest 1st place yet. Stage 2 was a giant cruise liner with kaiju fighting in the background. I haven't mentioned the music so far in this video, but this game has a banger of a soundtrack. This stage probably has my favorite tune, but I think the audio design is just really strong in general. Items and collisions sound nice and meaty, and the up-tempo bouncy songs make for a really funny contrast when you're getting absolutely bullied by the comms. My favorite part of this stage was definitely the casino. It looks really glitzy, and it kind of makes me wish they'd had some sort of extra minigames or something to play. There's also a really impressive dining hall with an obnoxious staircase to scale. I never figured out if there was a shortcut or fast way up here, but the stairs just kill all your momentum. Heading into lap 3, I was in 2nd, and I couldn't even see the guy in 1st. We got pushed back to 3rd, but once again the comm managed to derp, and that put me in 2nd. I was all ready to blast 1st place when leaving the casino, but I found him already incapacitated. I made the mistake of overheating myself while trying to boost up the staircase, and this could have been disastrous. Thankfully, I had a huge lead, and the finish line was in sight. Come on, dude, make this turn. Oh, no! No! Oh my god, dude, it all fell apart. It was all going so well. I was in first place and I made one crash and it all fell apart. What a throw, dude. That could have been first again. In spite of this blunder, I was still second in the standings and I had 2 more stages to secure the win. Our second to last stage is the same harbor complex from earlier, but this time it's been attacked by kaiju. That means everything is on fire and you take a completely different route. This is cool because it's the only callback stage in the game and it plays entirely differently from the first time around. This time there are still tight turns involving shipping containers, and the end of each lap involves dodging containers being moved by cranes. Good stuff. I was doing pretty well by lap 2 and I was hovering around second place. Unfortunately, there's a branching path near the start, and this time I took the right side. This took me above the stage on a winding path and it felt a fair bit slower than the bottom route. I ended up in 6th, but by now I'd really mastered the drift boost. It was really tight now in lap 3, and fortunately I'd stocked up on blue medals to red shell my opponents with. Annoyingly, I got distracted and took the top path again. I was starting to think it was all over. I seriously don't know what happened here. Maybe the comm went the wrong way somehow, but I was suddenly in first place and the race was almost at an end. It was between me and one other guy, and I thankfully had medals ready to go. I weaved through the cargo containers and locked in a super important first place before going into the very last track. A little extra cool thing here was that I set a new record for both lap 1 on this course and the total time. If I needed any more validation that I definitely improved at this game, this was it. Heading into the final stage, I was tied for first place in points. If I could just win this one, the special cup was ours. They saved a really cool stage for last, the Ancient Ruins. It felt appropriately epic for our final endeavor in this game. The level opens innocently enough. You race down winding hillsides and pass a pretty nice looking waterfall. There is a shortcut to the left there, but my jump stat was just too poor to risk it when I was this far in. Things really spice up though when you get to this giant Indiana Jones type temple. It begins with these giant crumbling pillars that can be driven under if you line up correctly. Next there is a room with crumbling floors, and if you fall down like I did, you end up on a considerably slower path. Then there's this giant room full of sand pits, and if you don't spam jump quickly enough, you're going to sink and need to respawn. The final room contains giant rolling boulders before you shoot out of a tunnel and reach the next lap. Again, a really cool level to end on. I love it when games end on a big, grandiose high note, and this ticks the box for me. In lap 2, I was out in first and went back into the temple. I slipped my way under the down pillars and proceeded to the cracked floors. This time I deftly weaved my way through by jumping, and I headed towards the sand area. A cool thing is that I thought driving into the sink pits would be game over, but you can actually jump out of them and you can get some serious air if you line up properly. A very pleasant surprise. Once again I passed through the boulders unscathed and entered into lap 3 with a commanding lead. I had a ton of fun on this stage. It felt really like a culmination of all my learning and practice with the controls, and chat and I were super hyped to put this one to bed. We made our way back through the course for the final time, and at long last... Woo! Like a glove! Nearly done for the whole challenge. Nearly 0.1% of the way or whatever. Oh, dude, my heart. This is way too intense. Dude! Literally the best player of this game ever. Oh yeah. Now, is that game over or is there one more? No, that's it! Chat! That is Charinko Hero beaten. Not bad. And there it is, dude. With the Special Cup won, the credits rolled, and I had beaten this game. This was our first Japan exclusive, and a really cool one to kick these off with. Completion of this one took 1 hour and 45 minutes. This one got a 6 for difficulty. The controls are just awful, and if the comms chain items into you, it could be really devastating, but I could definitely feel my improvement over time, and it seemed fair enough in that regard. Enjoyability was also a 6. I wouldn't want to play this one for an extended period of time, but it was a cute bit of fun for a couple of hours. If you made it to the end, then please enjoy a sneak peek at what I'll be playing next time. What are we saying? Prince of Persia. All right, Prince of Persia games aren't bad. We got to play them in chronological order. So we got to see which one came out first. Sands of Time on GameCube. Sands of Time. As Sands of Time was the first Prince of Persia title for the GameCube, that's the one we'll be playing next. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing as they help the channel grow, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye-bye.